Hello and welcome to the Vinyl Sanctuary. My name is Christian and I hope that you will join me in taking refuge in records. So I'm here today looking at the year 1977 as part of my Ranking the 1970s album series, and I'm back with another batch. So I've got 15 albums here to show from the year 1977. I've attempted to rank them from 15 to 1, which was which was very, very difficult. That is the most difficult, I think, of any ranking video that I've done to date, and that includes all the 1980s as well that I've already done. So if you are new to the channel and you're interested in the 1980s, then please do consider checking out my 80s videos as well. I've covered 1980 all the way through to 1989, but the focus today is on 1977. Incredible year for music. I think I'm just about okay with my rankings, but some of these right at the top could all have been number one. For many of you, stuff that I've got right down at the bottom could be a number one, and I would have a total, yeah, I would get it. I would totally get it. Really, really great year. So just a couple of little things before I get into the ranking, more so for people that might be new, checking me out for the first time. So what I'll do is I will pop a link in the description box to this video that you're watching here for all the previous videos I've done for the 1970s, so 70 right through to 76, so you can go back and watch those if you wish. I'd appreciate it if you did, if you enjoy what I've done here today. And pretty much the rules and regulations that I put on myself when I'm doing these videos is that I only show records that I own in my vinyl collection. So I do realise and appreciate that for some of you there may be some startling omissions and you might be wondering why on earth I didn't show that. But if you pop a link in the comments to me after watching, I always clear that up, as to whether or not it's maybe something that I don't actually own, or I might own it and maybe just not rate it or rank it as highly as the albums that I've chosen. Could be an album that I've never heard, or by an artist or a band that I know nothing about. So I'm always attempting to learn, and I'm always really appreciative and very encouraging of people getting in touch with me on the comments. It's one of my favourite parts of running a channel, is actually meeting like-minded people who share my passion for music and having really big, open, honest and polite discussions about music, and sharing our knowledge and love for the various music and bands and artists that have enriched our lives. So that is something really important to me. So I have done my level best with it. These are all albums that I love very much. So I will just be showing the album off, front and back cover, picking a couple of favourite tracks. This is what I do always do, and then just move on to the next one. So if there's any gatefolds or lyric sheets, any inners of interest as well along the way, then I will show them off too. And then any sort of factoids or bits of information that come to mind while I'm talking, I tend to pepper my commentary with those as well, and always do my best to try and get that information correct. But I'm sure if there's anything there that goes awry, I'll either correct it myself, by posting a comment, or if a person wishes to comment and help me out and correct me if need be, then I'm always really grateful for that too. Okay then, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Can't believe that we're already at this stage, the 1970s now. It has been a long series. It's been, pretty drawn out for one reason or another, but we're getting there. And this is, one hell of a year. So, do sit back, do enjoy. Let me know what you think of it. And let's get cracking. Okay, so number 15, we're starting off in New York City for this group. Very much part of the sort of art rock scene, new wave, I suppose you could say. Experimental in a sense, certainly, and definitely became hugely influential on a lot of artists that followed in their wake. Certainly a lot of bands I was listening to in the late 90s, early 2000s were very much taking the cues from this group. But they've had a terrific career, brilliant live band, massive reputation, and this one for me was an easy pick. But even though it's right down at number 15, it is still a terrific album. I will say that about every album that I've got here today. So kicking us off, we've got here Talking Heads 77 by the Talking Heads, debut album. So take it out of the crackly packaging, so we don't want that going over my commentary. So nice plain cover, but does the job. It's eye-catching. Great shot there of the band looking very, very young. I was just covering up Tina Weymouth's face there. Sorry about that, Tina. She's actually credited here on the back cover as Martina, Martina Weymouth. On bass, of course, then we've got here the former Modern Lover, Jerry Harrison. So he played with Jonathan Richman, so he's on guitar and keyboards, second singer. Of course, got the one and only David Byrne here, guitar and singer. And then we've got Chris France here on the drums. So Tina Weymouth, Chris France in particular, lay down some brilliant grooves on this record. Great, just a brilliant rhythm section, very intuitive. Just the way that they play off one another. And I do think as well, having that personal connection, that partnership as well away from the band, I do think it adds a special ingredient. I'm not sure if at this time they were a couple. If someone can please clarify that. But the point I'm making is that there is just a very secret component there that I think is quite unique to when you have musicians who are working alongside each other that have that are entwined in a romantic way or in a personal way. Artists like Richard and Linda Thompson spring to mind, and I just think that the way that they play with each other, drums and bass, there's just this real locking in of a groove. There's an understanding there. There's a respect. There's an appreciation. Great musicianship, and then on top of that, of course, then you've got the contributions of Byrne and Harrison with their guitar work, keyboards, singing. So really good album, this one. It's sort of a little bit nervy, bit sort of jittery. So if you're not aware of it, or you're not aware of Talking Heads, please check it out. If you're looking for something very quirky, something that's danceable, but thought-provoking lyrics as well, I think this is a great starting point with the band. They would continue to evolve throughout their career, embrace many different types of music, but this is just really good straight up art rock coming out of New York City. So favourite tracks, of course I've got to mention Psycho Killer. That is the classic song here on the record for me personally. Brilliant song, it's not aged. That great bass sort of the almost like a stomp to it in a sense, with Tina Weymouth playing there again, locking into a groove, and then everything building on that. Super stuff. I've always enjoyed as well on here Tentative Decisions, which is on side 1. Excellent song. Happy Day I've always liked. Don't Worry About the Government as well. So there's some really good stuff on here, and for me it's an album that still sounds really fresh. So I think that's an excellent record to get us started off today. We've got Talking Heads there with Talking Heads 77. Okay, so I'll pop that away in the crackly packaging, and then we will move on to number 14. Rightio. All right. So we're moving over to the UK now. And as you can imagine, with it being 1977 and with my music taste being the way that it is, I suppose we're having variations on a theme. There is a lot of punk in here. There's a lot of guitar centric music coming from, both sides of the Atlantic. But we're heading back over to the UK now, and we've got a band here who I feel pretty much jumped, I think, on the punk bandwagon. I think that they were certainly older than a lot of the punks that were doing the rounds at this stage. This is when punk, broke through. And I also think that they were more educated than they let on. They were certainly musically very, very competent as well. Maybe tried to kind of play that aspect down a bit, and tried to play up almost this kind of loutish, yobby sort of persona, which I think definitely belied some of the roots of these band members. I do think they were a little bit more switched on than they made out. So that record, that the band that I'm talking about, is the Stranglers with Rattus and Norvegicus. The rolling R is optional, but that's just how I like to say it there, just for a little bit of a laugh. So there we go, Rattus Norvegicus. You've got the rat there on the back, and the rat became like a bit of almost like a bit of like an emblem, like a bit of a symbol really for the Stranglers, I suppose. Got all the band members there, great shot there. I just love the way that the perspective on it takes you right through the pitch. You got Hugh Cornwell here, right at the back. Got Jack Black there, drummer there. Dave Greenfield here, and then JJ Burnell, absolute beast on the bass guitar, by the way, brilliant bass player. So a little bit more about this record, and then we'll get into favourite tracks. Yeah, as I was saying, really good musicians. This is a record that has almost got some prog leanings to it as well, certainly with the final track, Down in the Sewer. There you go. There's just the original inner there, which I'm pleased to have. Great photograph of the group, and certainly a punk album. I would say, there's some new wave elements to it as well. I suppose, arguably, or what would become known as new wave. There's just a really lovely mix of keyboard sounds and melodies, courtesy of Dave Greenfield, brilliant player. They're all really good players. I really like Jet Black's drumming as well, and then you've got Hugh Cornwell with a very, very distinctive vocal delivery, and really, for me as well, a very underappreciated guitarist. He's always a guitar player for me, Hugh Cornwell, that I don't really feel gets the recognition that he deserves. There's some really tasty playing on here. But yeah, just going sort of back a little bit to the whole persona of the Stranglers. I do think there is an uneasiness with them, with people. They have gotten into, I would say, quite controversial territories. We know certain behaviours. Some of their performances live became legendary for one reason or another, not always maybe in a positive way. I also think lyrically they were definitely pushing the envelope as far as they could. But I've always had this sort of idea, and again, anyone watching, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I've always felt that the Stranglers almost adopted like a bit of like a bit of an act in terms of how they behaved. I think they tried to make out that they were more, I suppose, like I said before, like loutish than maybe they actually really were. And that does translate into the lyrical themes as well. We've got a song on here, obviously the classic Peaches, which is just irresistible as an actual pop, like a pop rock song. It's so catchy. But then it's just, this a very misogynistic lyric, and that does cause some discomfort. It does create an uneasiness, but there's also, I suppose, something very compelling in that respect, especially if you're a music fan who likes to maybe look at things and be challenged to an extent with what you're listening to and what you're hearing. And I do think the Stranglers are very adept at doing that. They do push buttons, and I think that was always what they were attempting to do from the get-go. That's just my take on it. Again, if anybody thinks differently, please let me know. But I do wonder a lot of the time if a lot of what they perceived themselves to be was actually more of a bit of a put on, a bit of an act, really, and maybe away from the stage, away from the fans, away from actually being the Stranglers. I mean, even the name itself, a very controversial name, I think, to be choosing there. Something that is going to be something that will draw gasps and get people talking. Just everything about them, a sort of a very tough image as well, with the leather jackets, and these were guys that could look after themselves in a fight. Certainly, JJ Bennell, martial artist, etc. So there's just a lot there, I think, to unpick with the Stranglers. So they are a group that fascinate me to an extent, but then there's also things I listen to at times, and some of it is questionable, some of it is a bit, it's very close to the bone. But from a musical standpoint, brilliant talents, really, really good at what they do. So in terms of favourite songs, I mean, there are so many great songs on here. I absolutely love London Lady. That has got this really great guitar part on it, courtesy of Hugh Cornwell, this opening guitar riff. Just a really, again, like very tasty little riff that serves the song. Hanging Around is an excellent Stranglers track as well. I've always been a fan of Goodbye to Lose. That's just got a really great organ sound on it, courtesy of Dave Greenfield. And then on side two, I've already mentioned Peaches, which is a very notorious track, big hit for the band. But we've got to Get a Grip on Yourself on that side as well. And then the proggy leanings of Down in the Sewer, which is a really interesting piece, and that's actually split into 4 parts, that one. So yeah, a very interesting album for 77, and a band that went on to have a very decorated career, commercial success, and were always pushing the boundaries musically, lyrically, and in other areas as well. So there we have the Stranglers at number 14. Okay, so here's another group that were very, very experimental. We're going back to New York again now, a musical duo. Probably said enough there for most of you to guess who I'm going to be talking about. These guys as well certainly were pushing the envelope, very experimental, avant-garde, experimenting with soundscapes, noise, subject matter, you name it, putting on performances from what I've read and people who've watched them, who I've had the pleasure of conversing with, always trying to create a sense of occasion, making these things, the music almost being an accompaniment to making artistic statements or making statements in general on society or whatever subjects this group chose to turn their attention to. So I do think I'm okay mentioning the name and title of the band. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Obviously, I'm using the word in reference to the group as opposed to speaking about another area completely. So just a little bit of a warning there. But we've got now coming up Suicide with their debut record and their self-titled album. I do believe it was the debut. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm correct in thinking it is the debut. But yeah, self-titled as well. So we've got Martin Rev and Alan Vega who comprise the group. And if you've never heard of this band before, I would certainly encourage you to check them out. Certainly if you are looking for something new and fresh and inventive, even though this came out in 1977, I think there are ideas on here that are still head-scratchingly original, and you're hearing stuff that you will not have heard elsewhere. I'm pretty sure in saying that. Or if you have done, it's maybe a watered-down version of what this is, which is the real deal. This is almost where a lot of that sound originated from. There's a lot of groups who've gone on to cite Suicide as being an influence, but you go into the source here with this one. So it's a very, for me, it's a very accomplished album. It's one of a kind. Starts off with Ghost Rider, which is absolutely brilliant. Great song, that one. I'll just check if there's anything in here to show. There is indeed. Trying to remember. Yeah, so I've got a reissue here of this album. It's on red vinyl as well. So yeah, just got some bits here to show. There we go. So open it up. As I mentioned in the commentary in the introduction, I'll always show these things off if there's anything of interest. Just got some notes and things there, which is great. So just pop that away and try and take good care of it. And got that in there as well. There we go. And I'll give you a quick look at the vinyl as well. Why not? With it being a red one, something a little bit different, isn't it? So there we go. Red vinyl there as well. Okay. So yeah, going back to the actual record. So doing something very different, I would say, for what was around. I don't think there were many people doing what they were doing, if doing it at all. I think they were taking inspiration from a number of different places. Being based in New York with that arty sensibility going on, and maybe absorbing prior to 77 by this stage, the Velvet Underground's debut album had been out for 10 years. I would imagine that maybe there'd been some Velvet's influence in there somewhere, just purely with it being something that was coming from the, should we say, like the seedy underbelly of society. I do think Suicide were more geared and drawn towards that side of things. We're not dealing here in a sunshiny, poppy, jingly jangly music. This is very rough, it's abrasive, it is experimental, it is going to make you, it's going to prick up your ears. Certainly it's going to really grab your attention for the time that it's on. But yeah, Ghost Rider, as I mentioned just before, great opener, great sound to that one, a really great rhythm to it. We've got Cherie on here on side one as well, which I've always enjoyed, which sort of brings the tone and the mood down a little bit. But the main track on here to listen to, it is a true one-off, and I'm not even really going to talk about it too much. I think it just needs to be experienced. Is Frankie Teardrop. That for me is the track on this album. There's just nothing like it that I've ever heard. It's pretty frightening, to be honest, pretty full on. And if you're going to make a statement in a song, then doing it in the way that they do it with Frankie Teardrop, it makes it pretty much unforgettable for that track alone. So a very worthy addition here to the top 15. It had to be in here. It was just a case of where I was going to put it. This might seem very low to a lot of people, but that argument could be levelled at anything I'm showing today. So I'm really keen to see where people would place any of these albums, or if they've got different picks entirely. But this is my top 15, so this is what I'm going with. But highly recommended. Please do check that album out. Okay. So we're taking a short break now, a little bit of a quick look away, if you will, from all the noise, all the guitar stuff going on that I will be showing throughout, all the experimentation and various soundscapes and things to come. This is still a guitar album as well, but it's just guitars being used in a very different way. There's nothing abrasive about this record. There's nothing. It's very smooth. It's soft pop, soft pop rock for me. But it had to be in here because I just love it so much. But it's definitely a different vintage to the other stuff that I'm showing today. So this is a monster seller of an album. Continues to put a smile on my face whenever I put it on. I need to be in the mood for it, but when I am in the mood for it, there's nothing better. And it is making me smile that it's kind of in and amongst all this other stuff that I'm showing today. But coming up next, we've got, of course, Fleetwood Mac with Rumours. Love this album to bits. Stevie Nicks there, of course, and Mick Fleetwood on the front cover. Without question, one of the most iconic album covers in history. It's just the inner there. There we go. Great photograph there of Christine McVie and Stevie Nicks. So there's the ladies, and then we've got the gentleman there taking up that side. Of course, got Lindsey Buckingham, one of my guitar heroes, Mick Fleetwood, and John McVie. So yeah, there's really not much to add or to say about Rumours. I mean, there's people out there that would certainly do a far better job of expressing its brilliance than I could, but I'm a big fan of the record. I've already made that clear. I don't think there's a bad track on it. I really don't. I think the sequencing of it from beginning to end is fantastic. It sounds great. The playing throughout is just superb. I love the feel of it. It's got quite a smooth, rich, quite an organic sound to it. I love the sound of the bass and drums in particular. It's not too overwhelming. It doesn't sound sort of graty or tinny or anything. It's just got a really nice smoothness to it. And then of course when you throw into the mix all the absolutely delicious vocal harmonies, you've got Christine McVie performing on here, of course Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham. They're all handling vocal duties, and just such a strong crop of songs. I mean, it's obvious to see why this would have struck the chord that it did, and just a massive seller. Just millions and millions of units. So, and given as well that this was in '77, with the whole punk thing going on, just goes to show you that this was an album sort of looking back, I feel, keeping it almost keeping it traditional in a sense, but still breaking through while and doing amazingly well while you had this sort of this new thing coming on the scene called punk that was very exciting and very raw and very angry. And then you've got this here, which is almost a bit of an antidote to that, but in a really nice way. So yeah, I mean, the songs, love them. Dreams, of course, is on here. Don't Stop, Go Your Own Way, Songbird, The Chain, love The Chain. Always makes me think of the Formula One growing up here in the UK with that iconic bass part by John McVie. People here in the UK will know what I'm talking about, who remember it being used on that. You Make Loving Fun, absolutely brilliant. Gold Dust Woman, great album. Please do check it out. Nice Sunday afternoon record, that for me, and I'll never grow tired of it. I love Fleetwood Mac to bits, and very happy, of course, to have that one in my collection. So I'm sure that's in many rock collectors' collections, to be fair. But anybody who disagrees or isn't much of a fan, then please do let me know. Okay, so we've had our little palate cleanser there with Fleetwood Mac, and now we're getting back into the rock. We're getting back into the rawness now, pretty much for the remainder of the video, and going into some experimental terrains as well along the way. A couple of detours there along. Okay, so up next, we've got one of my favourite ever singers. Watched him live many times. Never fails. He never disappoints. Always puts on a show. Brilliant. Usually half dressed when I've watched him, which is pretty much the case anyway, isn't it? With him, doesn't like wearing a shirt very often, if at all. I am, of course, talking about Iggy Pop, and I'm showing here Lust for Life. Just love him. Love his singing. Very underrated lyricist as well. Does not get the credit he deserves, in my opinion, as a lyricist. I think he's brilliant. '77, big year for Iggy, and a very big year for another chap that will be making an appearance a little bit later. No prizes for guessing who that will be. But yeah, '77, what a year. So yeah, Iggy Pop, Lust for Life, great album. I know that the front cover is a little bit, I think it divides opinion. I know people who just think it's an awful cover, can't stand it. Just with Iggy there with this like almost like a bit of a goofy, cheesy grin. But I've never minded it, to be honest. I think it's a perfectly fine cover. I mean, he's had better covers, in his discography, but I like it. So yeah, let's get into these songs here and a little bit more about the album. So yeah, you got the Sales brothers on drums and bass, and boy do they shine on this record. None more so on the title track. I mean, that drum riff, that drum intro has to be one of the most famous drum intros ever committed to tape. I mean, it has to be. You hear the opening crashing drum part of Lust for Life, and you are just absolutely in the world of Iggy for the duration of this album. It just gets the blood pumping. Love the song. Could not have had a better opener for the album. Of course, we've got Carlos Alomar on here as well, known for his work with David Bowie. Ricky Gardner's on here. Of course, Bowie himself, lending a hand, produced by Bewley Brothers as it's quoted or documented here on the back. Recorded by David Bowie here. So yeah, I mean, Bowie's fingerprints are all over this thing, as we know. Massive contribution to this record and to another one as well the same year, as well as doing his own stuff. But yeah, Lust for Life is worth, that's the admission price alone, pretty much sewn up. Just listen to Lust for Life. Love it, love it, love it. Obviously, we've got The Passenger on here as well, which is one of Iggy's best ever songs. Great guitar part in it, very simple, very effective. Brilliant vocal performance on that by Iggy, but he sounds strong all the way through. Got Tonight on here as well, which made an appearance, didn't it, later on, courtesy of Bowie, doing his own version of it. Neighborhood Threats on here as well, which is great. Some Weird Sin. So yeah, it is a strong album throughout that one, and one that does put a smile on my face almost as big as Iggy's there whenever I put it on. So yeah, it's a good time record, that one. I do enjoy it, and I do think where I've got it placed in my rankings is where it needs to be. I think it's pretty fair, and yeah, a little bit more of Iggy in a bit. So there we go. Lust for Life by Iggy Pop. Right then, next one. Wow, the quality of these albums is just incredible. Really, really is. Well, for people, who are into what I'm into, it's just, yeah, what a year. Great stuff. Okay, so we're moving a little bit more into power pop territory. Well, a lot more into power pop territory. We've not had any power pop yet, which is quite unusual for me. But even with this record here, there's definitely a darkness to it. There's an attitude. There is a bit of an ominous tone to it. I've always felt that, like slightly disturbing in places, bit creepy in places as well. But again, there's just something about the musicality of it. The performance, the delivery. It's a very assured debut, which again, similar going back to the Stranglers earlier, which is a debut. Got a lot of debuts actually here in this top 15. The assuredness of it. There's clearly a vision there, and there is a courage to it, a fearlessness of just putting stuff out there that may or may not land. This record here certainly does that with some of its lyrics, but from a musical point of view, really, really, really well played. Great melodies throughout, poppy hooks. The singing on it is just out of this world. Again, a bit of a vocal legend was born on this album. So I am now up to Cheap Trick's self-titled debut, Cheap Trick. Truly, truly superb album, this one. Excellent. Might be my favourite Cheap Trick album. I don't own everything by them. I've got what I feel, I would say, are regarded more often than not as being the essentials, the likes of Heaven Tonight, In Colour, which also came out this year, I believe, but wasn't in contention when compared to some of these other albums. But if anybody would put In Colour in here for the year, please do let me know. This had to be in here though, because I do rate this above In Colour. Dream Police as well, is another great Cheap Trick album. So yeah, getting into this one here. So the vocal legend I was talking about, who was born on this record, is Robin Zander. just a great voice, and he's one of those singers. The types of singers that I admire are the ones who have got almost like a chameleonic ability to change their voice suited to whatever they're singing. So Robin Zander can sing anything pretty much in any kind of a style, just the way that I felt Freddie Mercury could do that. Mike Patton from Faith No More and Mr. Bungle can do the same. Just people that can just mix it up seemingly effortlessly. I've got nothing but the utmost respect for vocalists who can do that. Robin Zander can whoop and holler and scream with the best of them, but then he can also sing very sweetly as well. And there's a lovely mixture of his vocal abilities on the record. Got Tom Peterson here, of course, bass guitar, vocals as well. Got Rick Nielsen, brilliant guitar player. Rick Nielsen, excellent player, guitar, vocals. And then we've got Bunny Carlos here on drums, who really knows how to keep the beat. Superb, rock steady playing throughout. Okay, so very interestingly here with this album, we don't have a side A and a side B. Just in case I didn't show that, I think I did, but just in case, we have a side A and a side 1. So this was a band on their debut, no less as well, that didn't believe in having a B-side or a side 2. So I think that the general consensus now, I'll just double check the label from the band themselves, is that the track listing or the way that the record should be played, let me just take a look here, is with Hello Kiddies being the opening track. So that would be that'd be side 1. So then side A then would be, equivalent to side 2. So that's the way that I always play it, because Hello Kiddies to me does feel like the natural opener. I think it works much better as an opening track to the album than Hot Love does, because that works brilliantly as an opener, to side 2. So that's the way I always play it. So Hello Kiddies, gets us kicked off. But favourites on the album, I absolutely love Oh Candy. Lovely song, that one. Speak Now or Forever Hold Your Peace is great. He's a Whore is my all-time favourite Cheap Trick song, so I have to include He's a Whore. Superb. Went on to be covered years later by Big Black. Yeah, they did a cover of it, I think. Pretty sure they did, yeah. Mandocello's on here as well, which is superb. Excellent song with the use of a mandocello in there as well. And yeah, just very strong songs throughout. The Ballad of TV Violence as well. That goes a little bit all over the show towards the end. That's a bit of a cacophonous finale conclusion, especially if you're listening to the album in the order I've just suggested. Then that makes it the closing track. So yeah, utterly superb album, that one. If you're into your power pop, or it's a genre that you're maybe dipping your toe into or learning more about, then please do give Cheap Trick's self-titled debut a try, because it's really something. Great album, that. Okay, moving on. So we are now showing an album here by one of my all-time faves, a legend, doesn't need any introduction, complete one-off, an unbelievable year for him in 1977, just in terms of the sheer output, the projects he was working on, stuff that he was doing for himself, stuff he was doing with Iggy Pop. I am, of course, talking about David Bowie. And coming up now, we've got Heroes. So Heroes for me marks my favourite period of David Bowie's musical output. I love the experimental, ambient sort of European sound that he was going for, very austere, like a very, just really dialing it back. He'd become the king of glam, he'd conquered that, and then he just completely went in another direction, always evolving, always changing. So again, nothing but the utmost respect for artists who continue to grow and make really tangible progressions, still remaining relevant whilst doing it as well, and doing it very successfully. So yeah, but Heroes for me is it's a sublime album. Just out of interest, Heroes, the song, is my favourite ever Bowie song as well. So whilst it's not my favourite Bowie album, Heroes is my favourite ever Bowie song, but I do love the run of albums that he did go on to do for the rest of the 1970s. You know, with the whole Berlin trilogy thing. I do love Station to Station as well, which came out the year before this one, which I think is almost like the dawn, you know, of this sound that Bowie really explores here on Heroes. Great front cover, of course. Excellent band. We've got obviously Tony Visconti on board for this one. This is the case. Got Brian Eno on here as well. George Murray, Dennis Davis, Carl Salomar, Robert Fripp plays lead guitar. Plays it, no pun intended, heroically on Heroes. He really does it. It's a heroic performance. I've always thought to myself that his guitar work on Heroes always reminds me of Motorcycle Emptiness by Manic Street Preachers that came many years after this one. There's very, like, that sort of yearning guitar line that Fripp came up with. Don't know if it was a direct influence on the Manics from Motorcycle Emptiness, but I've always heard similarities in there, which might be why it's become my favourite Bowie song, because the Manics are my favourite band. Beauty and the Beast is a great opener. Love that song as well. Sons of the Silent Age. Love V2 Schneider, which is on side B. Really, you know, like an atmospheric piece, that one, like a nice mood piece. Sense of Doubt as well, very strong throughout. Secret Life of Arabia to close. So if you're looking for peak experimental Bowie, because, you know, he does it elsewhere this year as well, then please do check out Heroes by Mr. Bowie. I can't rate it highly enough. Great place to start, and if you just want to listen to one track off it, then please do make sure it's the epic title track. Okay, so now we're moving back over to the US again. We're back here now with Bowie's mates and helping him out through this year. What a year for these two. Absolutely amazing. So I do put this one quite a bit higher than Lust for Life, as much as I enjoy it. But now I'm here now with The Idiot by Iggy Pop. And that is a front cover. That is how you do a front cover. That is just super, you know, with the whole the mime gesture there. It's just excellent. Just immediately once seen, you know, it just draws you in. It's interesting. Love the fact as well that they went, you know, with a grayscale for it. So yeah, this for me is a better album than Lust for Life, hence the ranking of it. And I do put it slightly higher than Heroes as well. So the reason being for that is I just love the flow of it. I think the songs are really strong throughout. Some of my favourite Iggy songs, and that includes stuff that he did with the Stooges as well, are on this record. So Sister Midnight I've always loved. Nightclubbing, legendary track, fantastic. Went on to be covered, of course, by Grace Jones, who had an album named after the song as well. Great album, by the way, if you don't know it. I'd highly recommend Nightclubbing. Fun Time, absolutely marvellous song. I've always loved Fun Time. Love Iggy's vocal delivery on it. The playing, of course, is superb throughout, you know, with Bowie involved again. Great band on here. Baby. And then we get China Girl on here as well. And I've always preferred Iggy's version of China Girl, that this is China Girl in its original form, than when Bowie went on to cover it in 1983 for the Let's Dance album. That was a very smooth, very commercial rendering of it. An excellent version, of course. You know, it did great guns both for Bowie and for Iggy, because, you know, it was a co-write, so Iggy would have benefited very much from the commercial success of China Girl in '83, but from an artistic point of view, from a musical fan point of view, I do prefer the raw version here that we get with Iggy. Certainly as well when he sings the section, you know, about the visions of swastikas in my head, and just the way that he sings, it's in the white of my eyes, like you really feel that bit, just with the sheer, like just the rawness of it. It's just a great performance. That Dum Dum Boys is good as well. So yeah, throughout it's a strong album, very consistent. For me, arguably Iggy's most I think in his solo career, maybe his most accomplished effort, perhaps. I do think there is just such a strong theme throughout it, and I do feel that the presence and the contributions of Bowie do elevate it. And I just feel that those two working together, they were just inspiring each other and really making wonderful music. So yeah, The Idiot is a fantastic album. Deserves all of the acclaim it gets, and I would definitely recommend anybody to please check it out. Okay, so moving on. This was getting so difficult when we were getting towards the end here with rating these. Okay, so we're getting back now into the UK, and this is truly, truly classic punk, amongst the very, very best that punk had to offer coming out of the UK. So we'll just get right into it. We've got The Clash with their self-titled debut, The Clash. Fantastic. Raw, angry, vicious, political, socially conscious, has so much to say, sloganeering throughout, the guitar work, the drums, by the brilliantly named Tory Crimes. This is before Topper's joined the band, or he's credited. He's not credited. He's not on this one. We've got Tory Crimes, got Paul Cinnamon, of course, on bass. Who's bringing into the mix certainly later on as well his dub reggae influences with his bass playing, and then of course we've got the mighty Joe Strummer and Mick Jones. But yeah, just an incendiary album, this one. It still sounds pivotal, it sounds important, I feel like it always will. And the reason I've got it where I've got it is just because it just came down to the finest of margins, making decisions. It does get that way with these ranking videos, and at the end of the day, these aren't always rankings that are set in stone, but you have to go with what you're feeling in the mood and where you are in your life when you're doing the rankings. This was a record for me. Probably if I was doing this when I was 22 or 19, 20, over 20 years ago, it might have been a little bit higher, but I think within the 15 it's ranked pretty damn well given what it's up against and what's above it. But yeah, it's just such a strong album all the way through. Janie Jones, superb. Side 1, track 1, Remote Control, I've always loved. I'm So Bored with the USA, of course. White Riot is just frenetic. It's just there and then it's gone. It's just like a rush, like a blaze, like a lightning strike, and then it's gone. Really strong. Got What's My Name on here as well, which I believe was written by Keith Levine, who went on to form Public Image Limited with John Lydon, or Johnny Rotten as he was in the Pistols. So we've got What's My Name on here as well. London's Burning's excellent. Police and Thieves as well. Yeah, my word, what an album. Career Opportunities, truly superb. Great all the way through. So if you're looking for classic punk and you want something, that's really going to get you going and something that's going to make you think, because please do, pay attention to the lyrics as well, because it does capture, as a lot of bands and artists did in 77, it captures society at that point in Britain. It really does. It's a document for certainly for younger people and for people who live through it. It captured the essence of the times, sign of the times, and The Clash very, very much did that. So massive respect to them on that front as well. But brilliant music to rock out to and very, very influential. Okay. And needless to say with that one as well, a very pivotal album that influenced the Manic Street Preachers. Okay, and many others as well. So can't always go on about the Manics all the time because I'll be accused of being biased. Right, so moving on. Another punk album here. I do prefer this one to The Clash. Certainly these days. I've always loved it. I've always kind of put these two together anyway in my head. I certainly remember years ago pretty much always playing them, alongside each other. Coming out of the same area pretty much as well of the UK, both London-based groups. So there's a lot of similarities here and a lot of crossover and things which would be content for another video all of its own. But moving on now to the next pick, we have got The Damned with Damned, Damned, Damned. Great title. Love the front cover. Obviously this was my choice as well for my title card. Just a great album. So yeah, I've kind of in these days now got this slightly above The Clash, but it's fine margins. So brilliant Brian James here on guitar. These are like a superb photograph, obviously as well. All smeared there in the cake, and it's just a great cover. Dave Vanian here, vocals. The absolutely awesome Captain Sensible. Love Captain Sensible. He's playing bass guitar on here, but he is just a phenomenal guitar player. And then we've got an unbelievable drummer here in Rat Scabies. Superb picture there on the back as well. There's Dave Vanian there, looking like he's just stepped out of a 1930s horror movie. He really does. Looks like he should be at a Cramps concert there, doesn't he, or something? A little bit early for the Cramps. So yeah, just a great album. Just, similar in regard to the Clash, with the energy of it. It's frenetic. It's not as political. It's not as socially aware as the Clash. Let's just make that distinction clear. This is an album that I think is more about pure, straight up, raw rock, and that's not to say that the Clash doesn't do that. But I think they were coming from a place more with a bit more of a conscience, making statements. I think this one, you could argue, is more about just the energy of punk. It's more about just, I suppose, just letting it all out, and just having something to release your energy to, without getting into political realms too much. We've got lyrics like here, like "Stab Your Back," for instance, which is just this very short, literally stabbing musical piece. It's just stab your back over and over again, but it does the job. It's very much in keeping with the vibe of the record. Got a version of 1970 by the Stooges on here, but it's been renamed "I Feel Alright." Great cover, that one. Opens up with "Neat Neat Neat," which has got one of the best bass lines in punk. As soon as you hear that, again, it's one of those, like with "Lust for Life" early, with that drum part. Once you hear that bass, it's getting you in the headspace to be on board with "Damned, Damned, Damned," and then to enjoy it for its duration. Great stuff. Then it's also got an unbelievable opener on side 2 with "New Rose," which is my favourite Damned song. She's really going out with him. Just unbelievable, the way that those drums come crashing in. Amazing. Great guitar lick by Brian James on there, really dirty bluesy sort of a riff. Should mention as well, sorry, this was produced by Nick Lowe, who went on to have, and did have, and was having around this time, a wonderful career of his own. Great songwriter, absolutely brilliant. Just literally bashed this out from a production point of view. There's nothing sophisticated with this, but with punk, to get that raw energy, that primal sound, this isn't about lots of beautiful textures and carefully placed overdubs and stuff. This is just raw and keeping it real. So "Feel the Pain" is excellent as well. "I Fall," and then the other one that I want to mention, as good as they all are, is I've always loved "Fan Club" as well. So please do give "Damn Damn Damned" a check if you don't know it. And if you want a song or a couple just to go away and listen to, if you fancy giving them a listen based on what I've had to say, then please check out "New Rose," and do check out "Neat Neat Neat" as well. Excellent. Right, so I think now we might be into the top 5. We're in the top 5 now. So 10 stonkers already for me. I love all them, but these are just the cream of the crop of what has been a very successful crop. So let's just move on. So here's another debut. Wonderful songwriter, went on to become, I feel, one of the best that Britain had to offer, certainly from a lyrical point of view. Always loved his way with words. Great musicality, musical magpie. He's gone into many different areas, tried many different things. Again, I mentioned it earlier, I've always had respect for singers, musicians that can do that, and this chap was no exception. So this is more of this isn't straight full on punk. This is more pub rock, some country stylings in there as well, a little bit of rockabilly, nice mixture. So this is probably the second, maybe arguably most gentle sounding album here out of the bunch, to compare maybe to Fleetwood Mac. Not that it sounds like them, but maybe one that just isn't as kind of full on and ferocious, or going into sort of these electronic soundscapes the way that the Bowie stuff does. So coming up here, just great songwriting throughout. We've got Elvis Costello with "My Aim Is True" coming in at number 5. So I did wrestle with putting it a little bit higher, but the ones I've got above it, just from in here, they had to go where they were. But this is just an absolutely brilliant album. Absolutely brilliant. And given how many great albums Costello went to put out, with the Attractions solo career, collaborating with other artists as well, I mean, the quality control and just the sheer output of this guy is nothing short of astonishing. But going right back to the very beginning, this is one of his best batch of songs, in my opinion. It just sounds fantastic. So let's get into some of these. Oh, so good. "Welcome to the Working Week," great opener. But the jewel in the crown for me on this one, maybe it is for a lot of people, is "Alison." Beautiful song. great ballad for me. That's where the title comes from the lyrics there in Alison, My Aim Is True. Beautiful song. If you don't know it, please check it out. I also love as well The Angels Want to Wear My Red Shoes, one of his very, very best. Less Than Zero. You've got this sort of rockabilly knees up with Mystery Dance, which is great as well. I'm Not Angry, Waiting for the End of the World. So this is just a great showcase here of a very, very ambitious guy, a talent that was already just, I mean, it is sort of still in bloom, the talent, but there's just so many bits there already that you can't help but just be impressed at. He almost did arrive pretty much fully formed, and then just went on to keep evolving and changing and doing his own thing. So a remarkable artist, and somebody that, you know, musically I've had many hours over the years enjoying and loving and listening to his music. So at number 5, My Aim Is True, Elvis Costello. Excellent album. Right, so moving on. We are now back to Mr. Bowie. So I'm sure that you knew at some point he was coming back. I mean, I pretty much hinted at that all the way through and didn't really leave that one up to being a surprise. So apologies to anybody if anybody didn't appreciate me doing that. I think I just got carried away with the fact that we've got, you know, 2 Iggy's in here for 77, 2 Bowies as well, and all that crossover that they were doing between them. So number 4 for 77, I've got Low. Absolutely excellent album by Bowie. So this continues the Berlin trilogy. Absolutely amazing album, honestly, amazing album. And it's only at 4 because, I mean, again, if anyone's got it at 1, totally get it. The other 3 ahead of it, I just think are slightly better. Maybe I go back to them a little bit more, but yeah, this has been the hardest year. Not going to keep going. Well, I have gone on about it enough, plenty, but yeah, I've made my point with that, haven't I? But yeah, this is just another sublime album for the year. Bowie on sparkling form, continuing to evolve as an artist, as I mentioned. You know, we've had Heroes, got Low this year as well. Exploring new frontiers from a musical perspective. I mean, this is as far away from glam now and the whole Ziggy thing as you can get, really. You know, this is Bowie morphing into something, into a whole new different being, just another life form, really, and continuing to take people on that journey with him. I'm sure there were some people that maybe didn't get on board with it, but a fearless artist who continued to do things in the way that he wanted to do it. So getting into these tracks, my absolute favourite, I mean, it's one of my favourite ever Bowie songs, is Sound and Vision. What a track that is. Love playing that, love dancing to it. A lot of my mates are big fans of Sound and Vision as well, one in particular. He absolutely loves it. I think it might be his favourite Bowie song, actually. One of my mates who may be watching, so it's just the thing that came inside. Great riff to it. Gets the toes tapping, and probably one of the, if arguably, you know, probably the most commercial sounding track on the album. And when I say commercial, I just mean, you know, maybe one that's accessible. Commercial might not be the right word, but one that feels like a bit more of a routine entry point. Some of the other stuff on here is a bit more demanding, maybe, and experimental, but in the best possible way. Speed of Life, love it. Breaking Glass, What in the World. These are all absolutely brilliant. Subterraneans, yeah, Weeping Wall. Oh, honestly, what an album. As close to perfect as you can get, really, for me, in this genre, and for what Bowie was doing at this time. So please do listen to Low if you don't know it. And I'm sure, you know, there'll be a lot of people watching me here who have this as their favourite album of the year, maybe of the decade, maybe of all time. Please do get in the comments and let me know. I've tried to do Bowie justice there, you know, tried to do the album justice, but conscious as well that I talk long enough as it is, but just an absolutely outstanding album, that really brilliant, and definitely one of my favourite ever Bowie albums. That excellent stuff. Okay, so we're up to the top 3 now, so I'll just say at this stage, because I like to do that when I've been going on for a while, thank you very much to people who have continued to watch me here today. I really appreciate it. We're almost at the end of the year now, but I always just like to put that out there because I know that my videos and the way that I operate, I do go on for a while just sharing my thoughts and feelings, and I don't edit either, so I just put it all out there in the moment and then capture it and then just stick it out. That's just how I like to work. So thank you for being here, and I do hope that you've enjoyed what I've shown so far. So let's get into this top 3 then, which are all interchangeable for me, but this is how they've landed for me now. So we're going back for the final time. Yeah, well, yeah, because my number 1 I don't think it's punk, but it's a different type of punk. Excuse me. We're going back here now to what I would call like proper full-on classic punk, like classic UK punk, alongside the Clash and the Damned. I mean, this is just, what an album. You all know what it is anyway, don't you? So let's just show it. Here we go. Never mind the bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols at number 3. Only at number 3. I know. What could possibly be above it? I can already feel the gasps maybe coming towards me, but hopefully when you see the other 2 and again trying to explain them, maybe you'll agree, maybe not, but let me know. But yeah, I mean, any of these could have taken that top spot. This isn't bronze in any way. This isn't a bronze, silver, gold situation. These are all gold. They're all sharing the podium together. But yeah, an absolutely wonderful album. This is like the epitome of punk. So UK punk. This is where it's at. This is like as good as it gets, really. This is why I've got it, above the Clash, above Damned, just because I do think it's a better album than those 2, as great as they are. There's my copy of it there. It's a classic for a reason. It's a statement. It's gone down in the annals of history for all the reasons I mentioned earlier in terms of capturing the cultural zeitgeist at the time, certainly in the UK. This was the year of the Queen's Jubilee, and it was just it is like just a moment in time captured forever. Just the energy of it, the youthful exuberance, the anger, just how visceral it sounds. It still sounds fresh from a musical point of view today. The influence that it went on to have is just unspeakable. It's unimaginable, actually, just how massive this album went on to be. It did well, obviously, commercially as well, critically acclaimed in some quarters. It ruffled so many feathers just with its very existence. It was, it shot the nation pretty much, it did. It was anti-establishment, anti-royal, it's singing about anarchy, and yeah, there's just so much going on with this album, but they had the bollocks, they did it, they put it out there. They wanted to make a statement. They wanted to do something that they could be proud of, get that music out there, get it played, get into those clubs and pubs, and just tear it up. And that is what this album did. It tore up the rule book, and it made it possible for anybody who had that DIY aesthetic that punk was all about to be able to pick up your guitar, get on a drum kit, get a bass out, and just play. You didn't have to be a virtuoso, although these guys can play. Certainly play a lot better than people gave them credit for at the time, and just go for it. So anyway, favourite tracks. I mean, these are all essential, but I am going to name the usual suspects just for people that might be watching that are not familiar with the album. So please do listen to Anarchy in the UK, God Save the Queen, Pretty Vacant, Holidays in the Sun, Bodies are all brilliant. I love EMI as well, Problems. This is just one of those albums, just stick it on. Liar, stick it on, listen to the full thing. Just please enjoy it. If it is one that you're listening to for the first time or you've not heard it in a long time, let me know what you think of it. How often do you play it? Do you still feel like it has that power and impact that I still think it has? Let me know in the comments. But I'd actually be really excited if there's anybody who is watching who's maybe never heard this album before, because I was just totally blown away by it the very first time I heard it. I just loved it from the moment I heard it, and I've loved it ever since. And certainly here in the UK, this is a very, very seminal album. It's a landmark. It's iconic. It's just part of our cultural lexicon. Really, it is in there. Very, very important album. Can't be overstated. Never mind the bollocks. Is the Sex Pistols. There we go. Great stuff. Right. So the top 2. Okay. So for me, really, the reason that these are the top 2 are because from as powerful as all these records have been that have shown so far, from an artistic statement, sensibility, political, social commentary, that sort of stuff, although my number 1 does get into that to an extent as well. I just feel that these two just excite me on maybe a few more levels than some of the others do, which might be ridiculous to say when I've shown albums off like Low and things, but again, the margins are so thin. I think just because of the music that I gravitate towards, being a guitar player myself as well, and looking for that sort of thing, especially when I am listening to music, also as a writer for a living, I've always been very drawn to lyrics, although lyrically, one could say that the best batch of lyrics that I've shown in these albums today, maybe Elvis Costello. I think that's a pretty fair shout, although there's some great lyrics peppered throughout all these albums, but Elvis is brilliant. I think just for these two, the musicality and maybe the actual batch of songs, how they've been sequenced, how they sound, they just light me up in a way that I felt that they had to be number two and number one. So that's my maybe a little bit of an awkward or a little bit of a rambly sort of explanation for why they're here, but when you're doing these rankings, something's got to come out on top, and this is how it's landed. So this is my number two now. We're going back to New York again for the third and final time. So these were contemporaries of the Talking Heads, of course. No doubt would have run into suicide on the circuit as well at some point. But this is a group and an album very much all of its own. I've never heard another album like it. It's astonishing. It's the guitar playing for me in particular that draws me to it. But every aspect of it, it's just a very special album. Something in the mix. Whatever these guys were, whatever they were taking in terms of musical influence and what lives they were leading to be able to create this sort of music is just quite startling. So at number two, we've got Television with Marquee Moon. And honestly, anybody who, again, if you don't know this album, please check it out. It's absolutely incredible. It truly is. I love this album so much, so much, and it is number two just by a little smidge. Every track on it is sublime to me. You've got this wonderful guitar work all the way through the album by Tom Verlaine here and Richard Lloyd. The way that they duel with each other, interlocked throughout. Almost like I said before, right at the beginning of the video, Tina Weymouth, and although they're a rhythm section, with Verlaine and Lloyd, they just have this intuition, just a way of being able to kind of, step in and step out, take over. You handle that bit, you do this bit, and it's just an absolute joy to listen to it. It really is. And then we've got in the rhythm section, then we've got Fred Smith and Billy Ficker as well. Some of their playing throughout, the rhythms, bass parts, the drums, the choices being made throughout are just exemplary, really classy, great stuff. Marquee Moon, the title track, just has to be heard. It really does. Nothing else like it. Beautiful piece. Love it so much. Got a great opening track in See No Evil as well, but there isn't a bad one on here. Venus is excellent. Friction, Elevation, Guiding Light, Prove It, Torn Curtain. I've said the lot. Just please listen to it. Just listen to the album. Really can't add any more to that. It's astonishing. It really is number two. If you're a guitar nut like me and you just want to listen to some great playing throughout, then give it a listen. Lyrically, very interesting as well. Tom Verlaine, very poetic approach, as you'd expect if you're going to be taking, your moniker from a writer like Verlaine. He's, very poetic sensibility to his words, conjures up, beautiful images with his words as well, certainly on a track like Marquee Moon. And then the musical accompaniments alongside them, just perfectly executed. Sounds great as well, really does. So, as I mentioned before, these were playing gigs alongside Talking Heads, CBGB, things like that. Just built up a reputation over the years, continued to grow and grow. Again, huge status culturally, influential on other bands, that sort of thing, that can't be overstated. So many people cite this album as an all-time fave or as a record that changed how they viewed music, and yeah, I'm completely on board with that. I can totally see and relate and get that all day long. So yeah, very special album, Marquee Moon, Television, but it's only number two for 1977. 1977. Okay, so my number one, It's my number one just because of what it's just come to represent to me over the years. It's an album that, without getting sort of too deep and too personal and things, but this was an album that I was listening to a lot when I was younger, when there were times I wasn't always having a great time of it, for whatever reason, and this for whatever reason became a go-to album for me, that it almost felt like a place of safety and comfort, and a bit of respite. And it was an interesting choice, really, because it doesn't sound overly comforting, in terms of its musicality. It's not all warm and hearts and flowers or anything, and certainly not a smooth set of songs like Rumours or something. But there was just something about it that whenever I felt like I needed a bit of a lift, or I needed to feel a bit better about something or about myself, I would put this album on. And I do think that that had a lot to do with me making it number one. I mean, it's an astonishing set of songs anyway. It's a brilliant album, completely original, unique, front to back. Just exciting whenever I put it on. It still keeps me on my toes as well, because even though I know that the songs, some of them are so short, they're over before they've begun. Even now, all these years later, I keep expecting it to be like another verse to come or whatever, which is so silly because I know they're not coming. But it's just great that the tension that it creates when you're listening to the record, is just something that I find really special about the album. So yeah, I think I let some personal memories come into play with my choice here, which I hope you do understand watching me today, because that can often inform and influence us in terms of where we play certain songs or albums in our life, because if they've got a connection that's maybe spiritual or a bit deeper, then maybe it will elevate it above things which are arguably or on paper more accomplished. So this is my number one, so let's get into it. It is Pink Flag by Wire. So this is a go-to album for me. It still is. I love it to bits. I absolutely do. I love everything about it. The sound of it. It's quite abrasive. It's quite fuzzy and nasty sounding in places, from a production point of view. But it's really arty. I suppose it's pretty pretentious in a way as well, but it's not in a way that ever put me off. I just think it's just bursting with ideas and originality. And, if you want a song to be 30, 40 seconds, then why not? Just stick it on. If it does the job and it says what it needs to say, then why does it need to be any longer than 30, 40 seconds? It makes a statement. It's economical. It does what it does, and then it moves on. So there's a lot of songs on here. A lot of them are pretty short. It just flows from song to song. It is pretty much straight up, I would say, punk. I mean, I was saying before during one of my other rambles about whether it's not punk in the sense of the Clash and the Pistols or the Damned. There's too much artiness, I think, to this one for it to be kind of put in the straight up punk bracket. It's probably artier as well, I'd say, than the Stranglers. I'd say that was kind of more in keeping with the classic punk, but there's almost like post-punk on it before post-punk was even in existence, because we were still in punk era at this point. But yeah, I've got Colin Newman here, vocals, guitars, Colin Newman. Got Robert Gotobed there on drums. We're informed on the back of the cover that he's 6'3". Colin's got black hair. We got Bruce Gilbert there on guitar, blue eyes, and then Graham Lewis there, who apparently at this time of recording was 9 stone 6 pounds. There you go. So there's some factual information about the guys there. But yeah, it's excellent. It starts off with Reuters, which is one of the longer songs on the album, and that's not saying much. I think it's only like a few minutes, but it is one of the longer songs, if not the longest, from memory actually. Great start. Then we get Field Day for the Sundays right after it, which is one of the shortest on the album. Then we get this brilliant 1-2 punch, brilliant of Three Girl Rumba and Ex-Lion Tamer, my two favourite songs on the album. Three Girl Rumba went on to gain a bit of notoriety in the 1990s when the band Elastica decided to pretty much plagiarise it, to be quite honest, for their song Connection. Brilliant song, great song, but it did ruffle feathers in the Wire camp, and I do believe that did end up going to court, and I don't know the ins and outs of all that. I think maybe there was a settlement or something, but the riff of Connection is identical to Three Girl Rumba, and yeah, so that was something. In a way, it gave Wire a bit more of a bit more exposure in the '90s just through that connection alone. And sorry, no pun intended there with that one. That definitely wasn't intended. And then we've got Brazil, which is a great song as well. Surgeon's Girl got the title track Pink Flag. 12XU to close at the end is brilliant. I've got a voice in my head telling me here that I hope I'm correct with this one, that My Bloody Valentine did a cover of that. I might be totally wrong there on that, but my inner brain, my mind thing is telling me, I think they might have done a cover of that, although I'm gonna have to check that out now. I hope I've not said that and got that duff information. Fragile as well is an excellent song on here. Straight Line, the commercial, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's my number one for a reason, so I have, and I would recommend every track on it. So if you're going to go away though, just listen to one or two in isolation. I do often do this. Listen to Three Girl Rumba and Ex Lion Tamer back to back. That's how they should be played, in my opinion, and heard, because they do pretty much follow on from the other. Minutemen, huge Wire fans, really into Wire. And again, this were a band influentially that went on to inspire people all over the world, certainly in the US as well. And they've got very devoted fans, of course, here in the UK and beyond. So that's my number one. Wonderful album, nothing quite like it. As I said, brimming with ideas, great lyrics throughout, very catchy, subversive, coming at you from all different directions, very angular in places. Some of the musicianship as well really makes me smile. Very unexpected, original. So a lot to admire there with that one. So there we go. That is my number one for 1977 Pink Flag by Wire. And that concludes the video. So again, thank you very much indeed for being here. I thoroughly enjoyed doing that once I actually finalised my top 15. That wasn't quite as enjoyable, but I have enjoyed being here in front of the camera, just having a good old natter about 15 albums that I'm delighted to have in my collection and that I do continue to play pretty often. So yeah, all there is to say now really is, your attention, your time is massively appreciated. And if you enjoyed what I did today, then please do leave a comment. Let me know what your favourite albums of the year would be. Let me know if there's any that you think, you wouldn't touch with a barge pole, or if you're not a fan of. Let me know if there are any glaring omissions that I need to get listening to, or maybe need to buy for my collection. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed my content, then please do consider subscribing as well. That would be really appreciated if you did. And you can go and check out some of my other videos that I've made. I've been going since May last year, 2024. So relatively newish, I suppose. Don't know if I can really keep saying I'm new now, but I'm already unbelievably coming up to nearly a year, so I don't know where that's gone. But all support is appreciated, and if you do subscribe, do click the notification bell, and then that will keep you posted and updated as to when I've got new videos landing. So coming up next time will indeed be 1978. I'm not planning to do any sort of vinyl haul videos or anything like that in between. I'm just going to continue to keep working through the remainder of the decade, really enjoying it. So until next time, take care everybody, and bye for now.